Hello and welcome to AZAAZ. That's Ask Zenatta Anything About Zoho. This is Volume 1, Issue number 23. This is the show where we answer your questions about Zoho. We're Zenatta answering your questions about Zoho. So you can ask Zenatta anything about Zoho, and we will answer those questions. You can put those questions over in Club Zenatta, cleverly named. Couldn't think of another name. That's our online community. You can ask questions over there and we'll answer them. Or maybe you watch one of our many YouTube videos. And while you're watching that YouTube video, you go, that's interesting. I wonder, and you ask a question because we didn't answer it in the YouTube video. And so you ask and we say, well, what are we going to do? Well, what used to be, we would maybe get around answering your questions in Club Z. Oh, by the way, that's short for Club Zenatta, Club Z, clever, because 3 syllables as opposed to 1. I'm thinking about calling it Club Z. Call back, listen to the last episode. You can see what's going on there. So anyway, that's what this show is. And I'm Brett Martin, and I'm here with Greg Belknap. And then I'm over here with Tyler Cole. And then over there with, Landon McCluskey. And these are your superstars. We're going to answer your questions. And with that, let's go.
All right, our first question comes from our YouTube channel on a video on Zoho Social. The Right Price Real Estate Group says, is Zoho Social's direct messaging feature triggered by entering a phone number for the direct message recipient? And can it group direct message people? Well, the answer is the direct messaging feature is triggered when somebody sends your brand a message on one of these platforms, and then you can use Zoho Social to respond to those messages. But it can't compose or craft direct messages in Zoho Social. So to answer the second question, no, you can't do a group direct message because unless the group message comes in to you first. You couldn't create I want to direct message 5 people. Let me just make one message and send it to a whole group. To the first question, the triggering is by them sending you a message first.
And we would, Greg, you covered this on the last show. I think you actually did a screen share on this, didn't you? Kind of going through all of this on a previous AZAAZ as to how that all worked. Am I imagining that, or wasn't there a previous AZAAZ where we actually?
I think I showed you guys, but I don't think we actually put it in the show. This was all off mic.
All right. Yeah, well, I think you pulled up. Brett, what you're thinking is Greg runs for the listeners. He runs a Zoho 1 instance for his improv group, and I think Greg, maybe you showed us that social, but it had a lot of real people data in there that we don't like.
Yes, so I didn't want to do a screen share of all of that.
Okay. So the big thing is basically you can't go outbound with this. Is kind of what you're saying. You can respond to messages that come in, and if they came in as a group message, you're all good. But you can't really do an outbound message with Zoho Social, only inbound.
Right. Yeah. It's not like you're able to. You can't compose any direct messages. The only things you can compose or create are new posts for your various channels.
So technically possible, just not in the app. I mean, since Zoho's allowing you to respond,
but not.
Technically, they could do it. But we're just right.
Yes, but I'm assuming that when they're asking, can it group direct message people? I'm pretty sure they're referring to, we want to send out a message to these 5 people. No, you can't do that. You would have to make a post or use some other tool for reaching out to them.
All right. For our next question, we're going to use the magic of video recording technology.
Hey guys, we got a question here from Arlene coming from the YouTube Zoho Books Setting Up Banking Tutorial 2021. Hello, do you have any tutorials on how to activate or enable taxes in Zoho Books? I need help regarding property tax payable account. This is a current liability in my chart of account, but does not appear every time I categorize or make a journal entry. I need some help. Please and thank you. So I got a screen share here for you, Arlene. Let's go ahead and go over that and review your question. So in order to activate taxes, you'll need to go to the settings, go to taxes. This is just for sales taxes. You can either connect to Avalara. You'll need to get a separate Avalara account and connect that to Zoho Books. Or you can go ahead and enable sales tax here. You'll need to create a couple different profiles. One, if you have any type of exemptions. So, for example, if you have resale certificates, then that could be the exemption. And then for tax authority, for example, as they give, we can just do the Illinois Tax Department of Revenue, and then you'll be able to enable sales tax. That's a quick setup. Once you've activated it and put in those initial ones, you can add multiple tax authorities. So say if you're also in California, you might have the CDFA. And for exemptions, you'll want a couple different ones. So there's retail certificate exemptions. The other type that you can do is on items. So if you have services that do not need sales tax, you can do a service exemption on items. And then you'll need to also add in your tax rates. Now, again, if you're using the Avalara integration, all of this is figured out for you. You would still need the exemption for services, for example, but it will base the taxes off of the location of your customer. So new tax rate in here. So we have a 7.75%. You'll add that to your tax department. So that's how to set up sales taxes. In your question, it seems like you're asking more about property tax, which wouldn't be handled on this. So the next step you'll want to do is come down to chart of accounts, add a new account for property tax payable. So that would be a other current liability. After the payable account is created, you'll need to create the expense account that goes with the payable. So we'll go down to expenses and create the property tax expense account. So once the expense account is created, we'll need to go up to the manual journal entries here. We can create a entry to accrue your property taxes that are due. So we'll go ahead and go new journal, add in a note here, select the date, say it's for last month, and then we'll go ahead and select the payable account, as well as the expense. We'll go ahead and record this. Always do a liability on your accruals and a debit to the expense. So once that's saved, say you wrote the check and it's been cashed and we're waiting for it to then clear the bank on the bank, we can go ahead and go to the banking and reconcile that check. So we'll go ahead and come here. We'll see the transaction, the check that was paid for that. We can click the expense by going to categorize manually, and we'll add this from the property tax payable account. Once that's been categorized, we can go and we can see on the balance sheet here that we have nothing for the property tax payable. That is because we have accrued it, and then we have created the payment as well. And then when we go to the profit and loss, you can come here and see that we also have the $300 property tax expense. Hopefully that answers your question. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave a comment below or email me at john@zenatta.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. All righty. With that, let's go to our next question.
All right. This one was a post in Club Z Q&A for AZAAZ, and I understand now that you explained it, Brett, what AZAAZ stands for. It makes sense. Zenatta, Zoho, Ask. I get it. So makes sense.
I've actually been confused this whole time. I only got it today.
Yeah.
You're Zoho, right?
Wait,
we are Zoho, right?
Correct.
Well,
yeah, we do get that all the time, don't we?
Well,
we do actually.
All right. Anyway, this one is a post that Fredo Barber said use case for CRM. So said, I was wondering if anyone can weigh in here on the best way to set up the CRM for my use case. For every lead we bring in, there are 3 possible outcomes: member, agent, client. Each lead can be a client multiple times, and they can also be a combination of member, agent, and client. How would I, or can I, structure this in relation to the modules that already exist, or do I need to create new ones? So for this, I would say your best bet, especially because there's multiple instances. I'm assuming that you're probably using the deals module for each instance of member, agent, client, or a combination of each. So what I would do is create 3 extra modules, one for member, one for agent, one for client, and then link them to your deals module so that each deal is going to show who the member is, who the agent is, who the client is, and it may be that the same person is both for a single deal. That way, on your contact record, when you see the list of deals, each instance, you're going to see if they were the agent or the client. So you may have, like you said, you could have multiple, they could be a client multiple times, and you would see that on each deal. This deal, they were the client. This deal, they were the client. This deal, they were the member. So if you do 3 linking modules, link them to the deals, and then you'll be able to see that on your contact record in the related list for deals.
Fantastic. And Friedel, you have recently become a client of ours, and we're having your kickoff call today, so we'll be answering that question and more when we today. All right, the next question is for Joe. If you're listening to this, that's the number 4, then spelled out FOR, and then Joe without any. Anyway, for Joe was watching our YouTube.
Without any what? Without any what, Brett? You said Joe without any.
Without any.
Any what?
Oh, without any. Oh, Greg, we're killing
some
it.
people's kids.
All right, for Joe asked, after watching our YouTube telephony solutions for Zoho that Tyler and I did last week, dialing from CRM on mobile uses your phone, not the RingCentral app. Does that mean it uses the phone dialer or data on my cellular plan? It's using the data on your cellular plan. It would be super nice. I mean, unfortunately, you don't have that ability when dialing from the CRM app to say, use my telephony solution. I have looked through all of Apple settings to see if it's even remotely possible to say, hey, don't use my carrier, use this app I have on my phone. It's not. So really, we've got some Android users here who tell me, nope, can't do it on Android either. I'm not even sure it's a setting that Zoho could turn on. I don't even think it's something in the mobile app they could say override, and when you're dialing, use RingCentral. Be super nice if you could, because the nice thing about dialing from within the Zoho CRM application, mobile application, is once you finish the call, it prompts you to make notes and do all of those kind of things. But you don't have that ability. Your only option is to manually dial from the RingCentral app on your phone, fire up the app, call the client, and then log everything manually. And I don't know if there's a way to spoof your caller ID so it looks like it's your RingCentral caller ID on your cell phone. Potentially, you might be able to do that, but that's about all I got. So yeah, it's going to use your cellular data plan, but most people have unlimited calling, don't they? I don't know.
I don't know if anyone who has timed limits anymore for their calls. But maybe that's just first world problems.
There you go.
A little bit of first world problems. I also was able with Verizon to tell the caller ID what to show when it comes up. So for about 2 years, when I would call people, it would just show up as Captain Lanolin.
Nice.
And that's possible.
Very nice.
All right, our next question comes from Club Z. Lucas asks, in Zoho Flows, create or update Zoho CRM contact, which is an action that you can use in Zoho Flow. I want to fetch a contact and then update that contact, but the update action in Zoho Flow only requires me to enter the last name field. Seems like Flow actually uses email to find unique records, but email is not a required field. Should we always use both last name and email to be certain that it will update correctly if two contacts have the same last name. So the answer to this one is actually to not use the create or update Zoho CRM contact action. That's our preference here at Zenatta. What we like to do is take two actions. One is first fetch module entry, or you could just, if you were specifically doing contacts, I believe there's a fetch contact one. And then you do that with the email. Then the response to that action, you then have a decision block that checks and sees, is there a entity ID that comes with that fetch request? If there is, great, we found our contact. Let's go ahead and update it. If not, then either we don't do anything or we're going to create a new contact and then continue on with our flow. And then our updating block is, rather than doing the create or update contact, we just do update module entry. And then you can select your contacts module, and then you're choosing to update it based on that CRM entity ID. So that way you know without a doubt that you are hitting that correct record. So
I almost always like to do that fetch and then proceed accordingly, right? Just do the fetch and use the logic. I don't know about you, Greg, as well, but I found the more I used Flow, the more I would just default to always using like the general action, like fetch module entry or create record in module rather than create contact or create lead. Just felt always a little bit more flexible and like not any harder to use them. But yeah, maybe consider that as well. But that's the big one. You always want to do a fetch and then get finer control with that decision tree.
Yeah, we've even had some of our devs, as they've been working in Flow, that sometimes when using the create or update contact or create or update deal, whatever, that sometimes not all of the custom fields were coming through. But whenever they used the update module entry, that more general one, it was always doing like a fresh pull of like any and all fields. We weren't seeing that with everything, but it is something that it is just a bug that we've seen crop up every once in a while. So it seems that the update module entry just seems to be a little bit more reliable and action blocked than the module specific ones.
Does anybody know on those Zoho Flow ones how Zoho determines what fields are included or not? It feels like they just flip a coin what fields are included on a module. I don't mean that like offense, but like saying.
Yeah, that's why we always, or it's more consistent that you get them all when you use the general one. I think just because it's so general, it has to make that request, like, because you drag in the, like, let's say update module entry, and it just shows you the one thing, which is a pick list for the module. So you make that choice, API call goes out and pulls back the fields, where I'm assuming with the context one is just making assumptions about what is relevant to you. But in a really custom CRM, we all know that could be pretty dangerous to make assumptions.
Yeah. Yes. And that I think there were a couple of instances where in some of the fields, there were some like pick lists that wouldn't let you use like a custom, it wouldn't let you use like a custom value for that pick list. Like you had to use one of the established ones for something. And so you couldn't, fill that in like dynamically or programmatically. It had to be like hard coded. So again, using that update module entry kind of guarantees that you're given that flexibility.
All right, next question here comes from Rich over on Club Zenatta. This is in our Q&A. Post title is Canvas with Images. So here we're talking about the CRM Canvas view. And the question is, we have accessible image URLs and field data, but I don't see a way to build Canvas designs in CRM that allow you to add an image using these source URLs. And so, this is my injection here. We do this type of thing a lot where we park images inside a work drive and we create publicly accessible URLs that allows you to embed them in documents and emails and things like that. So back to the question, there's an image element, but it seems to only allow a static URL by design. So question is, if it's not available, is there a recommendation to generate designs or build a custom field in the records to show the images, essentially make it available as an element in Canvas? So good question, Rich. We kind of kicked this around a little internally, and it's one of those rare cases where the answer is kind of no. There doesn't seem to be any element that you can add to a Canvas view that would allow you to dynamically use like a image URL to display it on the fly when a user loads it. So yeah, unfortunately, there's just no great way to do it. Tested out a couple options, but it seems like currently it is not in the cards.
So it has to be an attached image?
No, it's just you can't have any dynamic image in a Canvas view. So like when you drag in like an image component, right? You're in the Canvas builder, you drag in the image, it's got a field for a URL. You just have to put it in. There's no like, oh, make this URL reference this field where I have the URL stored. It's all hard coded. So it can't really be dynamic in any way. Other than with the record image, right? I think you can make the record image show up in certain ways. Like the default kind of like image for a record. I know I've seen that in like related lists for like houses and things like that.
I guess you should be able to. Could you use a client script to like on load of a Canvas page and just update that field, update that image element, or is it an image? Is it a field or is it a Canvas element?
It's a Canvas element, like where it has a URL that you can add.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I guess those aren't reachable via API, huh?
Yeah, I guess it would be like a widget. Could you maybe brute force it in like a widget? Drop that in the Canvas view? Does that get kind of ugly in and of itself?
Maybe.
Or set the URL to redirect to a certain place where you can put different image there. You never know.
Yeah. No, not a fun answer.
All right, the next question is from Bird Adventures, and this was actually after watching the YouTube video Z Portals, the only business portal you need. That was one we did with John Mark Bantock from Z Portals, I guess sometime this year. And this basically covers, if you're unfamiliar, that is a portal that ties into a bunch of different Zoho apps, ties into CRM, ties into projects, and it ties into Zoho Vault. And this question asks, I'm a travel agent, and I can't use any of the Zoho credit card options because they all process the card. I use the client's card info directly with the travel supplier, so I need to see all of the card information to do this. Would the Vault solution in the portal be the answer to this limitation? Well, yes, Bird Adventures, but you don't need to use Z Portal for that. You basically just need to use Zoho Vault. Zoho Vault is included with Zoho One. They have a free version. If you don't have it, that pretty much will give you everything you want, or they've got a version that's $10 a year if you feel like that's missing some features. But one of the things you can do in Zoho Vault, besides storing passwords, think of it as something like 1Password or any of the password solutions that are out there, where you can store your passwords. They're encrypted, they're safe, you've got a master key, you can access them. Well, besides passwords, you can store credit cards, and they actually are set up for credit cards. Zoho calls them payment cards. So when you basically go create a new password, and then it'll say, what kind of password do you want to create? And one of your password options is a payment card. And you can click on that, put in all of the information. You can then view it and use it as you need, and you are going to have it safe and secure. Now, if you wanted to allow other people to be able to enter their credit cards and give them to you online and do this kind of things, then potentially you could use the portal for that, because it will talk to Vault, and people can add things to Vault doing that. Also, it's an easy API if you wanted to do that, but you've got a couple options as far as doing that. I don't know, guys. Zoho Forms, is that writing directly to Vault or anything yet? I don't know if that is or not.
PCI compliance becomes the issue there. Like it's the minute you're capturing credit cards, especially if you've got like the, authentication code, the date and the full number, when we're capturing like a name and, like what they'd like to order, it's totally fine to just post a webhook and write it to CRM. The minute you're capturing credit card data, or it's even like, Brett, the process we have internally for when we take a client password, right? Like it's never stored in plain text. It's not the normal way we integrate things. It's immediately encrypted, goes through a middleware server in AWS, and then, hits one pass directly. So it's definitely, there's a lot of extra considerations when you're building like an integrated flow, where something like a portal, like Z portals, just have them log in, type it in. You don't have to touch it, transmit it, anything like that might be the best option. Because a form is just, it's a whole different level when you're capturing that kind of data.
I mean, doesn't even Zoho Forms have on the bottom of the screen
like,
saying,
don't do that.
Don't do credit cards. Please don't use this to grab any passwords or credit cards. Please, please no.
Yeah.
So I think, if you're just getting these from them over the phone, then you're good to go. You can just, go ahead and enter them in Vault and you are fine.
All righty. This next one comes from Joshua Alter. It was a post in Club Z in the questions for AZAAZ. So look at that. He says, you mentioned that roles in projects are just tags, but does Zoho projects have the capability of catering to the traditional record hierarchy like Zoho CRM can? So for this one, I'm going to share my screen here in a second, and I'm on the roles right here. So as we mentioned, these really are just tags. Even when you go to add one, you just have a name, and that's it, right? Profiles, on the other hand, is where you have that traditional hierarchy. Now, the biggest thing is the answer to this question is yes and no. So no, you cannot have that traditional hierarchy in projects overall, so that when any project is added, these profiles apply so that every person has that specific access to the project. And that is because when a project is created, unless you're the top level, the super admin or admin, you have to be specifically added to a project to be able to do anything on it. But once you're added to that project, that's where these traditional profiles come in. And when you add one here, you have a lot of those permissions and everything. So whether you can create them, these are high level. So you can create projects, what you can do with those, can you adjust task templates? But when it comes into projects, you have the different permissions that you would traditionally see, and all of that. So again, it's yes and no. Yes, that traditional hierarchy does apply when you are added to a project, but overall within Zoho projects, it really doesn't apply as much.
All right, and our next two questions both have to do with Zoho Creator, and specifically Josh's video on styling Zoho Creator pages using HTML and CSS. So the first question is, can you change the background of a Zoho Creator HTML snippet into an image? And our next question, are you able to make HTML elements on a Zoho Creator page clickable? And the answer to both is a resounding yes. You certainly can. These are just, this just gets into the realm of HTML and CSS attributes. You can insert you can turn elements into buttons that, can either open a form or redirect to a new page or fire off a function, whatever. Or in the case of the background, yes, you can change the background to, one color or a gradient of a few different colors or a link to some kind of image. The trick is just making sure that you're grabbing the particular container that your page is sitting on, because sometimes I've done something where I had created some CSS attributes that were attached to the body of a creator page, and I wasn't seeing the changes reflected until I tried scrolling down farther than the page would go, and then I would see that the Zoho Creator itself would drag down a little bit, and the color that I had tried to set the background to was actually just behind all of Creator. So it was I had changed the color just in something that was
on a creator page is basically a container right? So anything you want to style, you have to style the container, not the page or the
Yeah. So I had done all this very pretty styling on basically the very bottom layer of the entire like website rather than the actual just like.
Bet it looked great though, Greg.
Snippet page. Oh, so good, so good. But yeah, quick answer. So I'd recommend we use W3 Schools a lot for looking up HTML and CSS styling guidelines. ChatGPT is also really great at giving you that kind of stuff as well. Asking it like, hey, can you give me an HTML snippet that would have a background that had a sort of a radial gradient from green to forest green or something like that, and it'll give you all those little pieces, all those little keywords. It's great. What a time we're living in.
All right, last question here comes from Shane Ross over on our YouTube video, Shopify to Zoho inventory, integration, and automation. So question is, could you do the same or similar process for eBay or Amazon as you did for Shopify? So for those who haven't seen the video, it's kind of a two-part video. First half is using existing connectors so that orders placed on Shopify create sales orders in Zoho Books or Zoho Inventory. And part two is once that sales order is created, automatically creating a invoice for it, creating a package for it, all of those steps. So answer is yes, you could definitely do a similar process for eBay or Amazon. Both of those do have connectors for Zoho Inventory, where orders will flow in very similar to how they do in Shopify. Now, there is a bit of a process for making sure that all the proper items are associated with each of those channels. There's also a bit of a process of managing the different warehouses of inventory that need to be sellable on those different channels. So it's not quite as simple as just turn it on and it'll do exactly the same. There is going to be a bit of a process in making sure that all three of those channels work well together. But at the end of the day, yes, you can definitely make this work within Zoho Inventory using mostly pre-built functionality in the Amazon and eBay connectors.
All righty. Wow, we whipped through that, guys. 29,000 questions in 29 minutes. That was pretty good. Not bad at all. Everybody, we want to thank you so much for asking your questions so that we can answer them. And if you would like to get in touch with us because you'd like maybe a little more detail, well, you can do so by heading over to zenatta.com and clicking on Book a Meeting.
On the website is where you'll find complete episodes of our podcast, The CRM Zen Show, where we cover all the news in the world of Zoho every single week. If you'd like that news delivered to your inbox every Monday morning, be sure to also subscribe to our newsletter.
And head over to club.zenatta.com to join our online community where we post code shares, different Zoho news articles, and your questions could get featured on this very show.
And if you want your team to actually know how to use Zoho apps so the work that you do on them isn't completely wasted, check out our team training courses. We got CRM projects. We're going to be adding a bunch more soon. Maybe I'm pushing Drew, but he does a really great job. So check those out.
And last but not least, please be sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Wednesday.